Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome back to the African Messenger live online. This is Mr. Gloria Ngazal saying welcome again and peace to you. The question came to us about the last conversation we had about when in Rome, that people should do as Romans do, with an exception that it's not always what the Romans are doing that you should be doing. In other words, it's not always what you are learning from your new culture that you should really be implementing or doing or putting into action. And so the question came to us saying that have we considered the role that the government plays into the education of our children and how we want to kind of track them down? And it's a really good question, and that is our next conversation. It's, if you want to call it the next phase of this conversation, because it's really important, and we're so happy and glad that people are sending these questions in. They mean a lot. They mean a lot. It means that people are paying attention to the conversation and are kind of responding to, which is great. And we are thankful continuing to get those emails, and it gives us all these more encouragement, more reason to continue having this conversation. So last summer we talked about when in Rome we're talking about parents kicking the kids out of the house with the pretext of like they are already 18, therefore they're adult enough, they should be able to take care of themselves, and therefore they need to get kicked out of the house. And we say that any parents who's doing that is irresponsible. First of all, that we don't do that in our community. That's not us. That is not how we grew up with. We take care of our own. If a kid is 18 and they're not in any position capable of taking care of themselves, by all means, as a parent, as a responsible parents, as a parents who really brought them into this earth, one has to take good care of them, make sure that they're giving them their foundation to be able to take care of themselves once they leave their house. It's not everything that we find that we eat. You don't go in any culture and find everything and start eating it. We always have questions about what is the composition of this? What is this made of? I'm going to give it a little try first to see. And if it doesn't taste good, then I'm not going to touch it. And most of the time we use our nose. We smell it and say, you know what, I'm sorry, but I don't think that's something that I'll be willing to try right now at this time. As a human being, we do that, and therefore I think it's really important and crucial that we understand that not everything that we find and wherever we go that we have to take. And so when we say that our parents have an obligation as a parent to take care of your kid under your wing and to make sure they grow, that they have a foundation, that they've graduated from college, they're not stressing over student loans that they have to take because they got kicked out of their house, and therefore they need to take student loans while they're still doing their undergrad when they didn't have to do that if they were living with their parents in order to pay rent. But if you provide a shelter for him, which is what we do in my culture, I think in any human culture, that we are able to provide a support, we're able to provide the same for the kids to be able to provide for themselves, to set up that foundation, that strong foundation, and to be able to go outside in the world with a good foundation. So have we considered the role of the government into this? Of course we have considered the role of the government into this. Yes, we understand that there are rules and laws, and that kids at some point they want to leave their house, you cannot force them. But what we were talking about last time, I think, was on the parent side. The parents who choose to decide that I am going to kick the kid out. I understand, but I know even the government, when you bring a voice of reason, they'll be ready to listen to you. If the government isn't going to come to tell you how to educate your kid. And this is something that we need to understand. The kids are educatable when they are still little. It is when you start showing them the way. There's a proverb in my country that says you can only straighten a tree when it's still little, because once a tree is grown, you cannot straighten it up. It's already grown firm and set and foundation. That's the way it's going to be. But when it's still little, that's why you just see people, they will usually have a little pole right next to it, make a seat on it, and they'll tie some rope around it to make sure that it grows straight. That is when it's still growing, it's still slow. And it is the same thing with our kids, I think. The minute you start educating them in the right way to go in the direction to follow, then they'll be able to follow that. And if something were to happen, then you bring a voice of reason into with even the government agencies, they will listen. As a parent, you have an obligation to educate your parent. Your children. You have an obligation to make sure that they lead, they're leading in the right way, that they're going in the right direction. But most importantly, that they have the basics for what they need to start life. Because it's really important and crucial that parents understand this. I understand the whole thing about, you do something and they're government agencies trying to come in and trying to do things. But I think that if you're taking good care of your kids, the government doesn't want to have this burden on them as well. They don't want to have no homeless kids out there. I am sure the government don't want to have the kids on the payroll system or something, or put them in foster care if they don't have to, because that's money they could be saving and sending it somewhere. As a social worker for many years right now, I have to say that it's something that we see. The government, that's why they places kids into foster care, because they want some adult to be doing supervision to take care of these kids. The government doesn't want to be taking care of these kids, no. They want an adult to be there in the life of these kids. So as a parent, if you bring a voice of reason, they'll be able to listen to you. If you bring a voice that is really a straight voice, that is reasoning, that makes sense, that is all about showing the care for the child and their goodness, they will listen to you. Despite rules and regulations, I mean, you're still following the rules and regulations. And I don't know of any government that would say, you know what, as a parent, it's okay for you to kick your kid out at 18. I don't know of any government that will do that. I think any government will encourage you to take care of your kids. Of course, if you are abusing your kid, that's another thing. That's another something else that will be a very good a topic to discuss about. But I think any government will understand any voice of reasoning. So again, what we are saying is this: as a parent, we have an obligation under the rules and the laws to take care of the kids. But we mentioned last time that if a kid chooses, if they chooses to say, I want to go out, I want to be a man or a woman on my own, I want to experiment the world, they have every right if they're over 18. Now, there's one thing that needs to happen, is this: a parent will sit down with the kid and say, look, this is what you're going to be meeting out there. I don't think you're ready to be able to take on those challenges by yourself. Reason with the kid. Despite the rules and regulation and laws that says, a kid is 18, they have the right for this and that, and yes, but as a parent, you still have an obligation to parent your kid and to show them the right way. And the government would want you to show the kid the right way. You can have a conversation with your kid and show them the right way. Like, if you go out there, this is what you're gonna encounter. This is what's gonna be out there. The kid would know. Even if they choose to go afterward, at least you've spoken to them and they know. Now, if they choose to go, it doesn't mean you shut your door completely. And that's something else that we've been also seeing. As when the kid leaves, the parents will shut the door completely and say, me and that kid, they'll never return to this house. That's it, I'm done with them. We shouldn't be thinking like that. Because at some point, under different influences, kids are out there. They are in school. They are going with their friends. They're spending time some places else. What kind of influences, what kind of storms, what kind of things they're paying attention to or hearing on a daily basis. We are not with our kids to see that. But what I'm trying to say here is that once the kid is gone, it doesn't mean you gotta stop, just stop, I don't want to have anything to do with them anymore. No, you still have the door open for them, because one of these days they're gonna return. They can return the next day, they can return the next week, they can return the next month. Because once they go out there and experiment and find out that the world out there is not really kind as it seems, When that friend who used to show them that I really care, when they still had a shelter, is telling them, you know, dude, you need to find a place to sleep, man. My father isn't going to let you spend the night here. When they realize that there's another world out there, I guarantee you that kid will come back home. But what we need to do as parents is you need to have the doors open. You need to have your arms open to welcome that kid back home. Because at that point, what they need is they don't need you to start telling them all these things. What they need is they need you to be able to start saying, you know, welcome home. Take care of them and have a conversation, a continued conversation. Again, I'm going to go to another proverb that says, you know, así fundisyon azeta fundisyon a dunia. If your parents, you didn't want to listen to your parents, you're going to listen to the world. Because when the going gets harder out there, then you start understanding, oh my gosh, you know, actually my parents were right. You know, I miss out something. I'm going to go back home. Because at home, there is a voice of reasoning. This is really important to know and to hear. And so the advice to the parents is, despite the rules and regulation, first of all, you need to start training your child the way that they should be going from an early age. Don't wait until the kid is 17, 18 and you start to instill some kind of norms and rules in them. They're not going to follow that. But when you start when they're still 2 or 3, 4 years, you start to show them the way, they will follow those ways. Even one day when they go astray, I guarantee you, they'll always come back home. But as a parent, you need to always be open to say, this is my kid. They make a return back home. I have my arms open. I say, welcome back home. You sit them down and say, did you see what the world did to you? This is what I've been warning to you about now for a long time. But now you know. Since you know now, can we move past this and then help you succeed and be somebody? You know, because sometimes we want, as humans, we want to see for ourselves, you know. We just don't want to listen to somebody telling us like, this is bad. Most of the time we want to see. We want to go there and test it ourselves. When we test it and say, okay, it's really, really bad. We don't want to believe that. It's the same thing with kids. And so this is what we're telling parents. You got to understand, have your doors open still for your kid. Have your arms open for your kid. Despite the rules and regulation, have the voice of reason. The voice of reason is always important. Even any rule and regulation will listen to the voice of reason. Because you as a parent, you know better than the government. You know better than anybody else out there. You know what's best for your kid. And so if you are there and you show the care and you show the voice of reason and you show the love, I think any rules and regulation will go under that, and every government will listen to you. They will listen to that voice of reasoning. And the voice of reasoning is a voice of love. It's a voice of understanding. It is a voice of care. It's got to be there always. So like we say, as a parent, you need to know this. Education is important, starting at an early age and teaching your kids the way they should go. Even when they go astray, you will know how to bring them back. And when they come back home, you are not going to be thinking about punishment. What you're going to be thinking about is, thank God my kid is back home. Now how can I help them go past this? Because they've already been educated the hard way that they were looking for. Now they know. You reason with them and you show them the way. That is what they need at that moment. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I want to thank my brother Daniel Kapuya. Thank you for this topic. Thank you for the question that you asked, and thank you for everybody else who's been sending in questions and suggestions and topic to discuss. We'll continue to bring these, and we thank you for your support. From the African Messenger, this is Mr. Glory Ngazal saying peace to you and your family, and thank you again, and please coming back, because we're here for you, and we'll discuss this. To our supporters and sponsors, US Bank, Prolesco TC, and Johnny Cafe, thank you so much, and we continue thanking and hoping that you continue supporting us. Thank you, and God bless.